The cemetery was quiet that night, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth and forgotten prayers. Ethan stood beneath the old oak tree, moonlight spilling across his trembling hands. In them, he held a single white lily, her favorite. The wind whispered her name through the leaves, Lila. It had been 3 years since she died, but every October 14th he came back. It was the day he lost her, the day everything changed. Lila Bennett had been light itself, the kind of girl who laughed with her whole heart and loved with reckless abandon. She was the spark in every dark room, the warmth in every cold heart, and Ethan, the quiet, broken man who never believed and forever found home in her eyes. They met in autumn, in a small coastal town in Maine. He was a writer who'd run out of words. She was a photographer chasing sunsets. He was the storm she calmed, and she was the dream he never dared to have. Their love wasn't loud, it was simple, deep, like the sea beneath the moonlight. He remembered the night they made a promise, right under this same oak tree. Lila had said softly, "If I ever go before you, promise me you'll visit me." "Not with tears, Ethan. Bring a story. Bring the life I couldn't live." He'd smiled, tracing her cheek. "You'll live longer than I ever will." She laughed that bright, contagious laugh and kissed him like it was the last thing worth doing. But life doesn't wait for promises to ripen. It just takes. It was a rainy night. Lila was driving back from a photo shoot when her car spun out on a wet road near the cliffs. Ethan had been waiting for her call. Instead, he got the kind of call that shatters people, the one that leaves a silence louder than any scream. He buried her beneath this oak tree, the place where she'd laughed, cried, and kissed him for the first time, the place where she'd made him promise to live. But Ethan didn't know how. He stopped writing. The world became colorless. Coffee without warmth, air without breath. Her camera sat untouched on the shelf, the film still inside from her last shoot. Every night he'd stare at that camera and whisper, "I wasn't there." Years passed, people moved on. But Ethan remained anchored to the ghost of a girl who once turned ordinary moments into magic. Then one night, he finally opened her camera. The photos were blurry, but one stood out, a picture of the moon reflecting on water, and faintly, his silhouette standing at the shore. On the back, in her handwriting, were 3 words, "Find me there." So he did. He drove 6 hours north to that same shoreline. The sea was restless, the sky heavy with silver light. He stood at the edge, waves brushing his shoes, and for the first time in years, he spoke aloud. "Lila, I'm sorry." The wind seemed to hush for a moment, and in that fragile silence, could almost hear the echo of her laughter blending with the waves. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't madness. It was memory, pure and aching. He stayed there until dawn. When he returned home, something inside him had shifted. Not healed, but softened. I sat at his desk, dusted off his old typewriter, and began to write again. Not for money, not for fame, for her. Every word was a heartbeat, every story, a conversation they never got to finish. And tonight, 3 years later, he came to her grave again. He placed the lily gently beside her name. Lila Marie Bennett, 1994 to 2022. His voice cracked. "You wanted me to live? I tried. I'm still trying." He pulled out a folded paper, a short story he had written. He read it aloud beneath the moonlight, just as she'd asked him to. It was about a girl who taught a broken man how to love again, and how to let go. When he finished, the night air felt lighter. The oak leaves rustled as if clapping softly for him. A tear slid down his cheek, but he smiled. "You'd hate that ending, wouldn't you?" he whispered. In the distance, a white moth fluttered across the moonlight and landed on the lily. Ethan laughed quietly. It felt like her answer. He sat there until dawn began to bleed across the horizon. He whispered goodnight. Lila stood and walked away. As he reached the gate, he turned back one last time. The sun was rising, and for the first time since she died, the world didn't look gray. He finally understood she hadn't left him in that grave. She was in the stories he wrote, in the laughter of strangers, in the sea, in the moonlight. He looked up, smiled through his tears, and whispered into the soft morning wind, "I'll meet you in the moonlight again." And when he walked away this time, he didn't look back. Because love like that never really dies. It just changes the shape of the soul. Thank you for listening to this story. If it moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that explore the depths of the human heart. Until next time.